Hello, everybody. It's me, Mark. I'm back, and for lack of things to talk about in the current world of Star Trek, we're going to be talking a little bit about this Star Trek Chronology, the history of the future. For me and many other people, this was the be all end all book on information regarding Star Trek and its timeline. This came out in 1993, so that means this particular book ends its chronology at the episode Time's Arrow. It essentially details, with images, black and white, mind you, of everything that happened in the original canon up till now, which was Time Zero at that time. And I have a particular fondness for this version of the past. And I kind of wish that when all this is said and done, and New Trek, as we know it now, is over, we can do this book again. It always seemed odd to me that they did this book before the end of TNG. I think they could have just waited. A lot of these books from that era are now not canon or soft canon or apocryphal in nature. You know, like, what is it, Scotty's Guide to the Enterprise, Deep Space Nine Technical Manual. I love all these because they're a snapshot to a version of the past, imagining a future that didn't come to pass, right? This book includes old ideas about the future, which is pretty cool to me. And I'm going to point out, starting with TOS, we're going to start with World War III, and we're going to work our way up to, the founding of the Federation. Just to give you a taste of how different the past used to be. We had a different past before First Contact. And what I was saying with when this was all over, if we can just end New Trek, say in a few years, it all comes to a close, I'd like to see another version of this book, okay? Star Trek, the complete chronology, maybe something like that. And it would be in 3 sections. 3 sections. Why is that? Well, a lot of things changed after Star Trek First Contact. First Contact changed the past, which is another way of saying retconning. Zephyr Cochrane, First Contact, First Warp Flight. It appeared very different in this old chronology, but if we had another version of this, it should be everything from the very beginning of TOS and TOS version of the past, TOS's version of between 66 and what happened with, say, World War III, all the way up to Star Trek First Contact, and then Star Trek First Contact all the way up to Star Trek 2009. So that'll be like, those pages will have like a red border, maybe the first ones will have like a blue border or something like that, and then the yellow border ones, division colors, will include 2009 all the way up to the end of New Trek. And then at the very end, it will have a timeline where it tries to make sense of everything. And it'll have multiple timelines going at the same time. And we're going to be setting the record straight, in a manner of speaking. So, of course, there's Denise and Michael Okuda. And I'm going to be having inserts in this video to show what I'm looking at, because I'm not going to trust your ability to read it when I just put it up to the camera like so. Here's the TOS version of the past. And this is all we had for a long time. 1993, a group of eugenically bred superior humans seize power simultaneously in some 40 of Earth's nations. Terrible wars ensue, in part because the genetic supermen take to fighting among themselves. Entire populations are bombed out of existence during these eugenics wars, and Earth is believed to be on the verge of a new dark age. When this book came out, this was copyright 1993. Curious? Editor's note. It is unfortunate that neither NASA or any other terrestrial space agency seem likely to have any spacecraft as advanced as the Botany Bay by 1996. This is one place where Star Trek's technological predictions have missed by a significant margin. On the other hand, we should probably be grateful that the show was also wrong about predicting the rise to power of genetic tyrants. You can see Voyager 6. There's the Botany Bay. There's Khan Noonien Singh. Here we go. Before the Phoenix, this is what I had. The 21st century, breaking the warp barrier. 2002. The space probe Nomad launched from Earth, the first interstellar probe intended to seek out new life forms. The probe was designed by scientist Jackson Roykirk. Nomad is later believed destroyed in a meteoroid collision. 2009. Captain Sean Jeffrey Christopher commands the first successful Earth-Saturn space probe mission. If only. We got something else in 2009, though. A movie. Advances in sublight propulsion technologies make sleeper ships obsolete. That's 2018. 2030. Zephram Cochrane, inventor of warp drive, is born. Remember what that 33-year-old man looked like in Star Trek First Contact? His work makes such an enormous contribution to space exploration that great universities and even entire planets are one day named after him. Editor's note: Cochrane is described in Metamorphosis as Zephram Cochrane of Alpha Centauri, something I've been thinking about most of my life. Because interstellar travel would have taken many, many years prior to the invention of warp drive, we are assuming that Cochrane was born on Earth and then he later moved to Alpha Centauri, presumably after the invention of warp drive. How curious. I'd love to see that resolved at some point. 2036. New United Nations rules that Earth citizens may not be held responsible for crimes committed by their ancestors. Very important. 2037. NASA launches spacecraft Charybdis on July 23rd, commanded by Colonel Stephen Ritchie. It is the third attempt to explore beyond Earth's solar system. The ship is declared missing after telemetry is lost. 2040. Television no longer survives as a significant form of entertainment. Star Trek is no doubt an exception. All right. 2061. First successful demonstration of lightspeed propulsion by Zephram Cochrane. This became the basis for early warp drive technology. Date is conjecture from Cochrane's career as described in Metamorphosis, further assuming that early warp drive had to be invented before the SS Valiant embarked on its expedition, circa 2065, since that ship clearly crossed significant interstellar distances. And here we can see an image of the original version of the Phoenix, Zephram Cochrane's first warp-powered spacecraft, which sometimes is referred to as the Bonaventure, which is what I go with. In my mind, that was the Phoenix, but hey. 2065. SS Valiant embarks on deep space exploration mission. Expedition is lost and is eventually swept out of the galaxy. 2079. Earth recovers from a nuclear war. In this post-atomic horror, which I believe is exactly what they called it in that episode, the legal system is based on the principle of guilty until proven innocent. Lawyers have fallen into disfavor as Shakespeare's suggestion to kill all the lawyers has been taken quite seriously. I read that in Picard's voice. That's from Encounter at Farpoint. 2117. Zephram Cochrane, now residing in the Alpha Centauri system, departs at the age of 87 for parts unknown. He is believed to have died, but his body is never found. 2156. And this kind of jives with Star Trek Enterprise too, which is post First Contact, the movie First Contact. Romulan wars begin between Earth forces and Romulan Star Empire. The war is fought with primitive atomic weapons, and the Romulan fleet is not even equipped with warp drive. Among the human casualties are several members of the Styles family. That's 2156. I wish we got to that season in Enterprise. That would have been cool. 2160. Romulan wars ended by the Battle of Charon, or is it Charon? The Romulans suffer a humiliating military defeat at the hands of the Earth forces. Here we go. 2161. United Federation of Planets Incorporated. Starfleet establishes with a charter to boldly go where no man has gone before. The Federation is governed by a council located in the city of San Francisco on Earth, and the Federation Council President's office is located in the city of Paris. The Constitution of the Federation includes important protections of individual rights, including the 7th guarantee, protecting citizens against self-incrimination. Okay. So you can see that we used to have a very different idea about how the past worked. But curiously, some things line up, namely with the Romulans and with the founding of the Federation. So do look out for these older chronology books, these older versions of canon. One day, we're going to have a book that summarizes everything. It's going to go from TOS all the way up to, I don't know, what's going to be the final show, Academy? Who knows? But one day we will have it. And one day, some brave soul is going to make it all make sense. But for now, there's a brief peek into Star Trek Chronology, The History of the Future by Michael Okuda and Denise Okuda.